nice to meet you. Finally, it's been a
Yes,
few
it
months.
is. There's so many folk you know on Facebook, and it's just really nice when you can actually connect with them in person, or near as
Yeah,
darn it in person.
exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, especially during the Great Plague of 2020, that was how we were meeting like this as well. So it became the normal way of meeting people. So introduce yourself firstly, and let's say who you are and what you do and everything.
Okay, well, I started like everybody else as a student dancer back in 1998. Uh, I got into it by accident. I used to run the Yorkshire branch of the Egyptian Society, and we used to organise monthly lectures, that sort of thing, and day schools, and do museum work and all sorts of things. So back in '97, we were looking for someone to come and give us a monthly talk. And we thought we'd book somebody to come and talk to us about dance in ancient Egypt, but we'd actually, by accident, booked someone to come and talk to us about belly dance. It was
Oh,
before the
really?
internet, so, people often made mistakes.
That's brilliant.
So I was then dared to go along to a Hafler, and I had no idea what heck one of those were, but, anything to go and write something up for the Society magazine. And so I ended up being, a student dancer because I loved it. I was dared to take part in it, and so I did. And then, I got to be being a sort of performer, but I tended to perform odd stuff, like more folkloric stuff or historical stuff. And that's because I have an autoimmune disease. So you can never show your skin, unfortunately, with the one that I've got.
Oh,
So it was always wearing things that were covering me up as much as possible. And unfortunately, after about 10, 12 years actually being able to dance, my autoimmune got the better of me. And so I went into organising dance events, including the Fanoon shows, which were a big sort of folkloric dance with Noara and Beverly Smith.
from oh yeah,
And
yeah. Nawara is the is Nawara the Moroccan dancer?
Moroccan,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
And Bev's based in Leeds, and she
Yes,
teaches a lot of traditional stuff, Mahmoud Reda and that sort of styles. Excellent teacher.
yeah.
Does a lot of stuff online now. And so we did shows, and so my actual dancing was taking a back seat. I then became a dance photographer because there wasn't enough of them going around who knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I relate to
And
that. We went into videography for the same reason.
and well, I then in 2018, my health really crashed. So, and then of course we jumped straight into COVID.
Yeah.
So I started writing for real. I've done, articles and things since first starting dancing, but I was challenged to write a book, so I did. And that's really me. I always have the idea that belly dance in the West is a very young thing. It's less than 150 years old.
Yeah.
I always think that there's still plenty to discover. There's still plenty to learn. And if it just so happens, like me, that your dancing days are probably over, there is still something you can do.
Yeah,
So that's me.
that's a wonderful outlook because like yeah, I
Yeah.
also have an autoimmune disease which is at times gotten in the way of the things that I like to do. And
Yeah.
you have to be realistic. And so, yeah, like for me, I've been very lucky in that I have always just managed to do it. But certainly lately, I've had about 4 years of kind of, well, especially over COVID, but it's after that, I've definitely had a hiatus, and more recently with some health problems for the last couple of years. I've definitely taken a back burner, and that's also one of the reasons. Not just because I was living in the middle of nowhere in Spain, but also partly that. But then after that, my health just got worse, and so being able to do things like this and being able to talk about dance is an outlet for me. So I'm still being able to connect with the dance community. So yeah,
Yeah,
like
there's
there's other
always something you
outlets,
can do.
yeah.
It may be that it's the other folk that get to dance, but there's always something you can do.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. And I've not managed to get a copy of your book yet, but I have I've read the interview that you sent me, which was absolutely fascinating and full of trials and tribulations and things, and quite humorous at times, and obviously full of peril. There was an amazing story. So what actually led you to writing this book, though? So what was the process that led up to that?
I ended up moving from Wetherby in Yorkshire, nearly on the edge of North
Yeah.
Yorkshire, where I used to live, to Hebden Bridge. And that meant that for a while I was stuck between my home in Wetherby and working in Leeds, but wanting to be in Hebden Bridge. So that kind of meant at least 3 hours a day on public transport.
Right.
And I'm not very good at sitting and twiddling my hands. I have to do something, and quite often it's so you don't punch other passengers. But I, yeah, it's that sort of train service. And so I started, Google Books had started to become a thing. And, you could spend your lunchtime at work, if you weren't going anywhere, reading accounts that, you'd always wanted to read about dance in
Okay.
Egypt or in Turkey. And so you're just going to read these things and find out thousands of things that people didn't generally know about belly dance.
Yeah.
And so once I'd started going through this sort of stuff, I started finding accounts in French and Italian and various other languages that I struggle with a little bit more than the others. But so you found things like amazing, amazing French accounts in particular, and some Spanish, some Italian, and others that I had to laboriously put through Google Translate, such as it was back then. And I came across, so particularly the French, there were so many accounts and so many interested stories. So I started downloading things and translating the chapter that was about dance.
Yeah.
And I had an idea that what I was going to do was put together a collection of quotes, um, just for a handbook for people to get over this crazy idea that everybody who went from the West to the Middle East, Egypt, North Africa, thought it was just terrible. And because there's so many people who went there and were absolutely gobsmacked by it and thought it was so beautiful and wrote stories about the women that they saw. And we've just got this crazy wrong idea because so many of the dance researchers who wrote in the 1980s and the 1990s were angry feminists. It was
Right.
popular
Okay.
at the time. So people tended to write as if all these terrible European men hated the dance and did dreadful things to the dancers. Some of them did, it's certain, but
Inevitably.
others
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
And and if you get hold of these unusual accounts, then you've got amazing stories.
It's
So
quite
anyway, I
it's
then
quite
started to say,
insulting as well to just to assume that about everybody, that everyone's been treated badly, and without, there's,
yeah.
yeah, it's quite insulting. So yeah,
But obviously, these days we have a much greater access to old books online, and now particularly a wealth of newspapers and magazines and uh, s- s- gazetteers, kind of collected magazine books that were very popular in the Victorian times. But once you start piling up this stuff that you've translated, you've got a picture of stuff that people just don't know. And I'd always had this idea that you shouldn't just dance. You should learn about it,
yeah,
um, learn its history, and not just the more recent stars. And there was just nothing about the early history of the dance, either in the Middle East or in the West. And I really wanted to know who were the first people who came to the West, and how did it come to be that somebody like me in February 1998 could go and have a lesson? Why?
yeah.
Why did English people teach this? When did it start? And you got so many dozy answers whenever you asked people. And you just think, well, I'm a historian, I'm a folklorist. That answer's just rubbish. And, no disrespect to the people who gave those answers, because they were probably working from, what they'd
Limited
seen.
resources as
And then
well.
there were so many
Yeah.
people, belly dance began in the age of the pharaohs. You know, please. And you just have to look at the evidence. And so rolling forward to good old COVID, um, I was obviously stuck at home with my autoimmune, which was in a really bad state at the time. I
Yeah,
always have great timing. And so Bev Smith asked me to do some videos for her class, to try and put the dance in a historical context, because it was something she really felt was lacking. And I just sort of nattered away to the camera for God knows how many hours. And that made me really think that I actually did have enough for a book. And
nice. Yeah.
so I did.
So your journey started back, was it the 90s? So I know how you came to dance, but because I've read that article, but would you like to talk about that? Because that's a really interesting story as well, about the cafe that you used to go to and all of that. I thought that was a really
Oh
great
yeah.
story.
I had my dance story is really how not to dance. I mean, everybody normally goes to classes, then they go to workshops, and then they
I
go
love your
to
story.
the proper way of doing things. I started class, but as I was starting class, my first marriage was breaking up. My first husband was a little bit of a waste of space, shall we say? Um, and well, that meant I didn't have an awful lot of money because all of a sudden I was paying off house bills and all the debt that he left me with.
Hmm.
So the idea to come and start an expensive hobby was just totally beyond me. But anyway, I went to Anne's classes, and I went to Majma and Glastonbury
Oh yes, yeah,
Dance
yeah.
Festival. And we went as absolutely rock bottom cheap as we could, myself and a friend. And uh, but again, I couldn't really afford workshops, and so it was just really, really difficult. And then you get the sort of stupid thing that you'd paid in advance for an expensive workshop, and on the day of the workshop, because you've been looking forward to it, your autoimmune flares up, and it's
Oh,
like, I've got brain fog, or my leg doesn't work, or all this sort of crappy stuff. So
yeah.
you'd end up paying a lot of money to sit out, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So in um, 2000, I think, I got an insurance payout and I went to Egypt and I saw Fifi Abdul. I went all over the place with a friend, saw loads of dancers, bought loads of music, and then came back and it was how can the heck can I learn to dance like that? You know, you see some proper dancers and some nutty dancers and sharby dancers and all this sort of thing, and you just want to um, you just want to dance like that with that sort of spirit.
Yeah.
And so then you could go to classes with various people that you could get to and do stomping up and down to really, really bad cassettes of muddy music, because obviously back then everybody was learning off cassettes still. And these things have been recorded so many times, they
The
just
quality
sound
would have been
terrible.
terrible, yeah.
Yeah, this bloody thing called the line dance. God, it was awful. Um, and so I come from a family where all my brothers nearly play music, and then I'd spent a good 10 years of my life traveling around with bands and musicians, and
Hmm.
the idea that you weren't dancing to the best copy of music that you could get, or a real life copy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I came
Yeah,
back
I agree.
came back from Egypt and I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't keep doing this and I can't afford to do this. And then one evening in absolutely freezing cold weather, it was snowing and hailing and God knows what, good old Leeds Council decided to move my homeward going bus stop to the other side of the town.
Um,
And so I used to come off a bus from where I used to work and then run across town like an idiot, usually carrying a dozen bags and briefcases because I was taking work home, and try to get to the new bus stop before missing my bus. Because if I missed the bus, I had 45 minutes to sit there and wait for the next one.
right.
So I was sitting there, freezing cold, and then you can hear Sidi Mansour and various North African chaps that it's North African, but you've no idea who they are. And then, Rashid Taha, and it's just, where's this coming from? And I realised that behind the bus stop, there was a grotty little cafe, and they were blaring out this music every time somebody opened the door. So I went in. Can I have a cup of hot chocolate, please? And there was all these blokes there, and it was like, oh my God, it's scary. What am I doing? And I can just sit here with a cup of hot chocolate, and it'll be all right. And they're all smoking the shisha, and then
Yeah.
I'm the only woman, not just the only white person, but the only woman as well. And you start talking to people because, as you've obviously worked out by now, I natter like nobody's business.
That's
And
great.
the owner said, would you like to come upstairs? You can meet my mother. And I was like, oh, okay. And so he took me upstairs to meet his mother, Fatima, and her friends. And so I sort of sat there like, hot chocolate, thinking, And so we eventually started to talk in a mixture of English and French and a bit of Arabic. And we sort of got on like a house on fire, as they were ladies in their sort of 60s and 70s, and they were just sort of sitting there generally waiting for their husbands to come back from wherever they were working in Leeds, taxi drivers and things.
Yeah.
And or in some cases they were waiting to start cleaning jobs at the end of the working day. And so of course there's all this music playing, and I then just started talking about the music because at the time I was really obsessed with it. And so eventually, to cut a long story short, they they realised that I danced because I'm always wiggling my hands about,
Yeah.
and and uh, and I made jokes about various singers and things. Amra Diaby's older than me, plastic surgery, and so they started to talk to me about dance, little histories, little stories, and about how the dance fits in being a woman in North Africa. They were all from was one Sahrawi, two Algerians, and one Tunisian that were the main group. And they started to dance. Sometimes it was just sitting in their chair. Sometimes it was getting up, and it was all giggles. And they really started to talk to me about the dancers in the West known as Mauresques, the ladies who appear on the postcards, the old Victorian postcards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we tend to think of them as photographic models, or in many ways as women who've been grabbed off the street and shoved into the photographer's studio and dressed in something silly to have their photographs taken so the photographer can make some money. That's not really what happened. These women were professional dancers, and they were professional models, and it was quite a complex situation. But anyway, these women were so they were professional dancers of Algeria and Tunisia as well. Possibly in Morocco. I don't really know about Morocco in the 19th century. But these women, they danced all over North Africa for largely for the incoming French colonists and for the French governorship of Algeria, because of course Algeria um, took over the governing government of the country in 1837-ish, something like that, by 1840, and because that was where the best money was. So the best dancers danced largely for the colonists and for the Algerians who collaborated with the French. And of course, there were other dancers who danced in the more regional areas, but like the Ouled Nile, for example. But the Moresques were urban dancers, the equivalent of the Egyptian Owalim, and they absolutely disappeared when the French were effectively kicked out of Algeria
The
in the
colonists.
1960s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but these ladies, they were older ladies. They were very, very keen on talking to me about this dance that nobody does and nobody sees anymore, and nobody would dream of performing it in public because it had been absolutely banned because the dancers who'd done it were associated with the old invaders.
Right.
And over a period of about 3 to 4 months, really, maybe more, they started to show me elements of this dance, and it's kind of how I danced from then on because it fit my body shape. Because with my autoimmune, I was forever going like this, and steroids are wonderful things.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, after this, I became ill again, and when I got better, they'd all dispersed. Um, so I never saw them again after this sort of period of 4 months, probably, when they were teaching me.
Right.
But so you just go home after work, you zoom in with all your briefcases and everything, zoom into this little cafe, hurtle upstairs and think, what am I going to learn today? What magic is going to be today's story? Because there's that sort of strange thing that when you're among strangers, people tend to tell stories.
Yeah.
Um,
I think your story is fantastic. Like, yes, I don't think it's not. I don't think it's how not to do things. I think that a lot of people have a very similar story. I started off with Rakshaki and then cabaret and then went into tribal. And I and it's the usual story. We saw Rachel Bryce and then wanted to do that, you know. And
I
that
want to bend backwards.
I know I want to fold myself in half and be a human snake. And it's like I think that so many people have that same story. It's lovely to hear when someone has an interesting story that isn't just the same one, you know. And I love that story, especially with it coming from people that were from other countries and taught you, you know, what their mothers had taught them, and
Yes,
so on.
it was a real privilege, but privilege
Yeah,
sounds such a snooty word.
I know what you
It
mean, though. Yeah, I do know
it
what
was
you mean.
fun. They were
Yeah.
naughty ladies and they were great fun, and I miss them.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. I hope they're all still about because they were knocking on a bit,
Yeah.
but they were
And so what
just
what
fabulous.
happened after that from then on? So when they'd moved on, did you continue dancing after that, or what happened then?
Yeah, I'd had a relapse,
Yeah.
and w- at the time I was mostly being treated on with massive amounts of steroids to try and keep my relapse down,
Right.
whilst the hospitals argued whether they would give me some more treatment, which was terribly expensive. So you used to have to wait, say, 3 or 4 months while somebody decided that yes, the budget could stand another shot of this treatment.
Yeah.
Uh, Something called rituximab, for if anybody's knows about these things.
I'll most definitely look
Um,
that up because I'm a bit of a nerd.
but yeah, so um, it used to get enormously fat, and my ankles had stopped working,
Oh,
particularly my left one, and my joints had been really bad, and my hair had fallen out. At the moment,
oh
this side of my
gosh.
hair's falling out,
Golly.
which is really not good. But
Yeah, there's a
um,
huge amount to deal with.
yeah,
Yeah, a
you
huge
know,
amount to
and
deal with.
another plug for Planter 39. It does work. Um, anyway, um, I I eventually, got got better. I mean, sometimes these attacks last like 3 weeks, sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 2 years. You never can tell. I'm having trouble with my internet again. It's been a bit weird today.
It's been a
I
bit
think everybody's
flaky.
watching Ozzy Osbourne.
It's been paused every now and again, but I
Right.
think we got the audio okay, so we should be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, after that, I, I got when I was sort of back dancing again, I got asked to join a Moroccan band that was based in Hebden Bridge. And that was really cool because I knew very little about Moroccan music. It was, apart from club music, it was at the time very difficult to get hold of either traditional music or just pop music. I think part of it is because the French and Tunisian music, uh, there were French producers still producing this music, and there were Algerian and Tunisians living in France, but producing the traditional music. And also, what's his name? Miles Copeland got into the publication of it,
Yeah, of
and
course, yeah.
then there were groups like or Rashid Taha, for example, recording in France.
Yeah.
But Morocco just never seemed to get
So
onto
yeah,
that.
we had access to it because it was in the rest of Europe, and then yeah, the Moroccan
Yeah,
music got cut off. So I lived in Spain for quite a while, and there's a lot of Moroccans in
yeah.
Spain. So there was just where I lived, I predominantly was hearing Moroccan music. So um, yeah,
Well, I really enjoy it there. I mean,
yeah,
part of me really loves Algerian, particularly the Rashid Taha type things.
yeah.
But I also just really love the Moroccan music as well. Then you also got, well, I was also lucky is not the right word. By this point, my ex-husband had buggered off to France. He'd run away from England, literally run away. And every now and again, he used to come home and bring some sort of peace offering, uh, basically, so that he could
Yeah,
get in
I
the
remember this
door.
in the interview mentioning this. I was quite that was
Yeah.
quite funny.
Um,
Although
so he could.
not funny, but also hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, it was just, um, so I can come home as was and raid some more of the vinyl, take some records back to France, so I can come home and see if you've got any copies of, magazines that it was subscribed to. And so he used to bring things, and he used to bring a lot of CDs that he was able to get in France. And at one point, he bought me some brilliant crackers, which I still love. The double clackers
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they play in Morocco. Love them, and they were made from a French World War II um, water canister,
Oh, right.
and so they're
They've got a bit
really,
of
really
history.
heavy.
That's cool.
And every Moroccan musician I've played with starts telling me that, "Hey, you're a girl. You should have lighter ones. I'll swap with you." You just think, no, they're mine.
No.
Uh, but as I was saying, I always sort of sidetracked myself. I ended up joining a Moroccan band,
Yeah.
and
And what were you playing? Were you playing a drum or what?
I was mainly dancing,
Oh, right.
also on some
I
of
love
the
I love dancing to live music though. I absolutely
yeah
love that. Yeah.
on some of the tracks I'd play finger cymbals
Right.
or
Yeah.
crackers. Uh, and it was quite useful to. I also did sword on head,
Yeah.
generally for the Nasser Gawen song Shabra Shatila, Shabra We Shatila, which is about the destruction of a refugee camp on the Lebanese border.
Oh, right. Wow.
And I was, we danced sword because the sword dance is one of those dances where the women ask for who shall avenge this, and who shall take up the sword and avenge what was done. So I always had the sword for that particular track. And then there was the wedding song where I'd have candles up, and
Is that what the candelabra is predominantly for in that kind of
yes.
dance? Yeah. Yeah, the candelabra. I've never actually performed with the candelabra. I've used all the other types of props and things, but candelabra.
Well, of
In
course.
fact, which would be lovely for me because I'm only 5 foot tall, and so it would give me some height.
Well, of course, I didn't do it right. Everybody was getting the great big Egyptian candelabras that sit on your head with a hat.
Yeah.
And I tried a couple of the cheaper ones that came over and they went nowhere near my head. It's like, I'm going to have to pay 60 quid for the candelabra and then pay 60 quid for somebody to chop it up and make
Top
it
it
fit
up and
me.
remake it. Yeah.
And I just didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Didn't have the money and certainly don't these days.
No, definitely
But
not now.
yeah. But I found some very old pictures of uh, dancers from various places dancing with the very early form of the shamadan, where instead of being a hat, it just sits on the top of the head, and there's little sort of blocks here, and those blocks sometimes they don't even have the blocks, but that's enough to balance the candelabra. That was something that I could use for the wedding songs with the Moroccan band.
Yeah.
And it was really good when you used to play sort of dark clubs because we did a lot of after dark club type places
Yeah.
going on until the wee small hours of the morning. And some of the I did have insurance. I was never to tell where I got my insurance from because it was done specially for me. But I I did do some daft things in some places in these clubs
Oh, as
because
did I.
yeah, well, you just have to, don't you? Because you go out, you're like, and you think, oh my God, they're all 15. So you think, right, I'm going to do something to shock the little buggers. And so, you get down on the floor and everything and whizzle around and all this sort of stuff. And it was great fun. And when you dancing with a festival crowd, it's and there's just you or just you and one or two others maybe. Um, you've got to make 1,000 people, 200 people, whatever the size of the crowd is. You've got to make that crowd go nuts
Exactly.
because at the beginning, when they hear the Moroccan band at the beginning of the session, they they don't know how to react to the beats because
Yeah,
they're so different to what everybody's used to. So if you've got some big chick at the front with a candle on her head,
yeah,
clapping away at finger cymbals, then it
yeah.
tends to make people
It
look
makes
at you
people
thinking,
clap,
what's the
and it
daft
makes
punk going to do next?
also though it makes people join in, because if there's somebody with some rhythm as well, that will get people to join in.
Yeah.
Someone's going around
Well, you
clapping or
just pick out the bit they're there to
playing
go
some
with
finger
and
cymbals,
forget the
then
rest.
yeah, then just getting them to join in, and then they're like, oh yeah. The other thing about crowds is that depending on the festival crowds, not so much, but a lot of other crowds, they often don't know whether it's okay to make noise. Whereas
Yeah,
and in this particular style, like it's like you have to make noise. It's supposed to be celebratory. It's supposed to be like, yay, make like lots of noise, lots of clapping. Whereas I've seen performance of, let's say, like magicians and things like that online, and then people are like, well, why weren't they making noise? And people in the comments are going, well, it's rude to make not, and I'm like, no, it is not. You're there to perform. You want, no matter what you're doing, unless you're doing classical ballet on a big stage and with an orchestra. No, we want clapping and celebrate. It's supposed to be a celebratory performance,
yeah.
and
It's
and
a, it's a crazy thing in particularly in Britain. I think people kind of think that it's good for me. I am paying money, going to see something's cultural. It's good for me. Therefore, I sit here and absorb the culture. Whereas
I yeah.
people of the culture are going, and
A few years back,
it's
I was in Laos, and I was performing for a group in a restaurant, and we had a group of Japanese businessmen come to watch the performance. And you know how so very conservative they are. They pretty much looked down the whole time and didn't look up at me. I danced around,
yeah,
and it's like, and but afterwards they each individually kind of came up to me and thank you, and I'm like, oh, thank you, great, they loved it. But I was like, how did you didn't even see it? But yeah, I guess they were probably watching in their peripheral vision or something. But um
yeah,
I don't I guess it's just they didn't know whether it was appropriate to do anything other than that, or it's just ingrained into their culture to act to be that conservative. So
mm.
that was a tricky audience.
I think I've always been the sort of dancer that's a bit of a rabble rouser.
Yeah,
Because going back to the cafe where I met the old ladies, uh, we ended up running party nights there,
yeah.
and we'd pretty much get all of the students from Leeds University who were, Arabic or Turkish or Iranian or whatever. They'd all be down there on the party nights, and you'd get to share dances with everybody. So you'd have a bandari, you'd have debkas with everybody falling over the chairs and tables, and you'd have the Turkish guys doing a little, and it would just be so much fun. But everybody would shout and cheer and stamp their feet and do daft stuff. So you never got to be a neat and tidy dancer. You'd put a tray on your head, and people would just go nuts. It's like, It's just a tray on my head. It's not special, but it's just daft, and everybody just go mad.
Oh, that sounds like
And
a lot of fun. Yeah.
yeah, I do think. One of my favourite sayings. It's from Dryden's poem Alexander's Feast, and somebody looks at Alexander when he's being a bit Alexander the Great when he's
Yeah.
being a bit down in the dumps about stuff, and they just say, "If the world is worth thy winning, think it worth enjoying." And
Right.
it's always to me that people just take themselves and their art so seriously, and it's different. It's like Margot Fontaine says, take your art seriously,
I
but
used
not
to
yourself.
I used to love Margot Fonteyn when I was a baby dancer, a ballet dancer back
Yeah.
when I was a little kid. I was obsessed with
Oh,
her.
I wanted to be a ballet
I,
dancer when I was a kid, but they didn't
I,
make pink tutus in my size.
I,
When
I
you're
wasn't
tall,
I wasn't tall enough, and I did auditions for the Birmingham Royal Ballet, and I just wasn't tall enough. It wasn't anything to do with my quality of dance. Like they would have picked me if I'd have been a couple of inches taller. I was always tall. I'm still 5 foot tall now. So, but I was like, but Wayne Sleep's tiny. I don't care. I was like, if Wayne Sleep can do it, then I can. But then I got ill with I got ill as well. So everything got put on hold for many years, and that's, but in a way it sort of led me to where I am now, and it led me to going down. I mean, my career would have been over when I was 25 if I'd have gone into ballet. Whereas with or without my illness, I can still be connected to or be doing belly dance in one way or another
yes,
until I'm bloody dead. You know what I mean? So I think that it's a lot. I do. I'm very grateful for my dance background in classical dance, but at the same time, I'm also I'm not grateful for, you know what I mean. This is shit having an illness, but it led me to where I am. I can't not be grateful for that, because if I've ended up having something that I've got for life, and it's so much healthier for my mind. When I started doing these dances, I was worried that I wouldn't be accepted, and I was worried about my illness. I was worried that, oh, you're not well enough to come and dance. Why you? And then suddenly I realized there was a lot of other broken people doing it too. And so for the first time in my life, I felt like I'd been accepted and able to do something and do it well. And it was okay that sometimes I'm a little bit broken and sometimes I can't do it. And so,
yeah,
yeah, you
it's
know what I mean? It's knowing that either you're too tall, too short, too fat, too thin, but we can all dance. It doesn't matter. Those things are not
yeah,
important in this style. It's like everyone is welcome. So you being tall and me being short, but we can dance together as long as we're feeling okay that day. Yeah, that's
yeah. It's a crazy thing. You invest so much in dancing and wanting to be better and wanting to um, be accepted and people to see you as you dance, because when you dance, it's you. If you let yourself go, it's you, all surrounding you, and you want the audience to love you, and you want the audience to like you, and you want your fellow dancers to go, oh, she all right, she is, and
yeah.
all these things, and you get to a stage where you achieve some of that. I mean, I used to say, audiences loved me, and it was fabulous. And then you get to that point when um, the bits where you're well are getting smaller and smaller,
Right.
and you you can't guarantee that on the day you've got to do a performance or compare a show or whatever, is that you're actually going to be able to stand up, because some days you can't, and it's just heartbreaking. And it makes no sense whatsoever. It's like my parents aren't genetically compatible, so I'm going to die early. And I'm still here, but a very long time ago now, I was told I had 10 years, and I'm still here. And which I'm very glad about. It makes you think that the universe either finds you useful or finds you bloody hilarious. And so there's got to be some good reason for you still being here. But it's absolutely heartbreaking when you've given yourself to this thing and it's the dance is just so enormous to you and so fabulous and so multifaceted and so full of colour and everything like this. And you you get to a stage where you think, I can't do it anymore. I mean, I had a real back crash in 2018 and I've never really recovered from that. My what listing things down, my ankle joints are gone, my kidneys are gone, my pancreas is gone. Just recently, my bowel is gone. Um, December 23, I got encephalitis, and so now I have brain fog at times. It can last a whole day, it can be just an hour. You've
Yeah,
got all these crappy things. Oh, teeth have fallen out. Um, you get all these crappy things to deal with
yeah,
instead of the beautiful dance.
yeah,
And you just think that's so unfair. And you cry your eyes out and you kick the skirting board. And then you think, I'm still here. And there's still so much to be done and so much that you can go out there and find the same beauty in it, whether it's talking to people about my book or whatever, if it's talking to people about how to take photographs, if it's taking photographs, if it's talking to people about the history, or just talking to people about how they feel about it, about dancing.
yeah,
Um, there's still so much you can do, and you know, um, I do things in my ramshackle way, but there'll be other people who'll be bloody brilliant at what they do next because they can't dance in the way that they used to. And I don't think people should despair. I think they should, for as long as they can keep going, um, find something that they can give to this dance. And there's so few books you can put on the belly dance bookshelf. And once you kick out the ones that are, you know, this move, that move, and you kick out all the recipe books and the lifestyle books and the goddess books, and you just want some real books, and you get rid of the really crap novels, and you just want some real stuff about the dance. It's a tiny little bookshelf.
right.
So there's there's so much people can do in terms of putting pen to paper or finger to keyboard, and you just don't despair. Um, it's cruel, it's rubbish,
Yeah,
it's really crap.
it is.
But you know, the other day I thought I was feeling okay, and I'll put some music on and just try for a slow bit of movement to try and keep the joints greased. And I just went like that. It's
like
like,
like a
my
tree.
balance is completely gone.
Yeah, yeah.
It's even before you talk about things like
I think
stamina.
we have very different disorders. I think mine is more on an hourly basis, whereas yours comes in big chunks and then lasts a long time. But mine does not affect me. I don't have anywhere
Mm.
near as any of the things. Mostly brain fog and tiredness. Um,
Mm.
and then muscle paralysis as well. So sometimes I'll get up and I want to spin because I love spinning, and I'll just go a splat, and then I'll be on the floor for 15 minutes and can't move or speak. So and I'm like, but I want to get up and
Yeah,
dance. And you're like, oh bloody hell, I just want to dance, and my brain is shitting on me. So I mean, um, but
it's
like
just so
and
cruel.
because at the same time dance is something that helps you. Dance is something that keeps you, gives you energy and gives you things. But your brain doesn't. Your brain's like, nope, sorry, don't care.
Yeah.
Not today. No.
Not today, dear.
Yeah, computer says no. um
Mm.
and it's like, so whilst this is something that gives you, and it's something that's healthy for you, and something that helps you even with your illness, your illness is the thing that has the end say, and that's just the way it is. So yeah, being able to remain connected and not be cut off. At the moment, I'm
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough to be able to be dancing at the moment. So that's good. I know, but you know, there might be a time in future where that's not possible. But at the moment, I'm going to keep going. But like you, like yourself, yeah, I'm going to find a way to, like, doing things like this and just having chats with people about their journeys in dance. Like, I think this is really important because there's so many stories, and they're all really important, and I think it's learning from each other and learning about how, learning about each other's stories. And I mean, I've learned a lot from you today, so you're in a little way, like, every story is part of the big picture, isn't it?
Yes. For a number of years, I was a folklorist. And the thing I always used to jump up and down and tell people is that folklore doesn't end in the past. It's
No,
happening yesterday, today.
ongoing,
Uh,
yeah.
and we all must tell the stories, and if possible, write the stories down, because particularly now everything's digital, is
It could all be lost so
you know,
easily.
most of it stands a great chance of being lost. I have thousands of photographs now of dance events on my hard drives. If I pegged it this evening, nobody's going to launch those hard drives. Nobody's going to remember all those years. And even if I leave strong instructions, you must give this hard drive to them. And so, yeah, I think we must record our stories. We must communicate stories with each other and get used to telling stories, because when you dance, you are telling a story, and you shouldn't be embarrassed of about that story, even if that story is about you. And so, if you get used to telling stories, it's going to make your dance more evocative, more real, more personal, more funny at times. Yeah. So
I think that's kind of like, dance has always been about telling stories and about communicating certain things and telling stories, and passing on knowledge and things like that. So um
it's not just getting through the choreography; it's a
no,
story.
no, I've never, yeah, as much as I love a choreography, but I'm more about, yeah, I'm it's not my favorite thing. Choreography is not my favorite thing at all. So if the choreography tells a story, great. Like a lot of folk dancers do that. So yeah, and when you look at things like classical Indian dance, those dancers all tell stories about ancient Hindu stories and things like that. And that, yeah, and if we just keep like what we're doing now is digital, like this this conversation is digital, but if we keep everything digital, yeah, you're right, it can be easily lost. Yeah.
Mm.
And everything gets old eventually. All these formats are going to be eventually redundant, and you're going to have piles of hard drives and things that are no longer used, and people aren't. Something else will come along and replace it, and something smaller and more functional, and then we'll have all these things that nobody bothers backing up or
Yeah,
maintaining. So you're right. You're right.
it's something that is constantly on my mind, because as I say, I know um, I, I run a risk of heart attack, stroke, all these sorts of pleasant things. Um, but I have hundreds of books, including some quite rare ones.
Right.
I have well, hundreds of books, yeah, thousands. I have thousands of articles and magazines, downloaded, newspapers. Uh, but more important than that is all the photographic evidence that I've collected. And again, I've got a lot now of newspaper articles with pictures. I've got postcards. I've got books that were collected for, say, the various fairs, world fairs, expositions. And I've got to now think about where that goes if I'm not around. And that's, physical material, hard stuff. And so have
It
something.
basically you need help with cataloging that stuff, really, don't you?
Yeah, I need to have a plan of where,
Yeah, that
all
stuff
this sort
needs
of stuff
saving and
goes.
cataloging in a safe place. Yeah, it needs cataloging for sure. Yeah.
So
I would love to
it,
see your
the more
collection in
things,
person, by the way. I'd love to see it in person. Like,
yeah, the more things become digital, the more paper becomes easy to throw away.
I love books. I love books and things to hold, and I do. I really think books are important. I think books and photographs. Yeah, digital. I mean, obviously, it has it's amazing, and it's yeah, we are saving a lot of history digitally, but I just feel like it's so easily lost. Like you could just lose it so easily and not get it back.
Yeah.
Whereas, and of course, physical things can be damaged as well. But I mean, unless you back it up onto repeatedly. But I don't know. I still think it's not what if we could easily lose all of that. It could get corrupted by like if somebody was to attack somebody's server, you could just damage all the data on it,
Mm.
and then that's piles of history gone. It's not safe. Nothing is safe in the cloud. Like nothing is safe. Nothing is safe on servers.
No.
It can be attacked and erased or corrupted. So it's not safe.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'd love to have another one you at some point, again in future. And I'd love to meet you in
Yeah.
actual person as well at some point. Maybe I can come up to where you are and have a cuppa with you at some point.
That would be lovely. That would be
Yeah.
lovely. I don't get to see many people.
Thank you so much for giving me your time this evening. I've really enjoyed it.
It's a
And
pleasure.
and take care of yourself for the rest. No, the weekend's over now. Yeah, we're on Sunday. So enjoy your rest of your week then. And hopefully we can
I
do this
will.
again. And thank you so much and much love. All right. Take care. Goodbye.